pointed out a few things like, okay, you pointed out it should be something that is worth, something that is useful. By the way, so I don't know, like, I mean, there could be also counter arguments, right? So whether something is useful now, useful in the future, would it be useful in the long run? So because we know for a fact a lot of maths and research that was done in the long past, just done out of they were interesting and out of just curiosity.
AI tools have been predominantly been developed a lot towards literature review, right? The writing tools are still scratching the surface. They are more like, okay, spelling checker, grammar checker. Even Word was doing well before these tools comes in. Does it a better job at contextualized grammar checking, obviously. Then paraphrasing. Then in paraphrasing also, like, there are tools like, okay, paraphrase like Humanify and other things, so that you want to beat these AI detectors. Some conferences and some places are using, and that is not narrative.
So, welcome all of you to the second session of the Research in the AI Era online workshop series. Now, this is organized by the Artificial Intelligence Forum for Students at the University of Peradeniya in collaboration with the SPS, Society of Physics Students chapter here at UOB. Now, today, we have the privilege of talking to two distinguished researchers enlightening us on use of AI in the AI era for research gap identification. So now this is going to be our second session, but if this is the first time you are tuning in with us, don't worry, we are trying our best to keep our sessions independent as possible. So we only had our introduction session by Professor Ragel, and this is going to be our first formal session starting from the research gap identification. First, we have our local host, or the host panelist, Professor Roshan Ragel. So he's the former head of the Department of Computer Engineering at the University of Peradeniya, and also the consulting CEO of the Lanka Research and Education Network, and the director of the Staff Development Center of University of Peradeniya. And we then warmly welcome our guest panelist, Professor Uthayashanker Thayasivam, the head of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, University of Moratua. So after obtaining his PhD from the University of Georgia, USA, he has obtained vast industrial experience in the field as well. So now we have a very credible resource person from every aspect. So we welcome you, sir, to the Research in the AI Era forum series. And before further ado, let me hand over the session to Professor Roshan Ragel to continue with the discussion. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Kapila, and thank you for that introduction, and also hosting this series, giving less like most of the work you're doing and letting us talk, and also all the students who are helping you organizing this. So like Kapila said, the idea we came up with some time back is to run a long series on research, how AI or generative AI and research come together. So in fact, like Kapila said, we started the first session and we did like a general introduction, and then we are planning for 9 more sessions. And this is the first of the 9 where we have our guest, Prof. Uday, we'll call him Uday. Uthayashanker, but I know Uday for a long time, and thank you Uday for taking the trouble to join us for this discussion. And like Kapila mentioned, the idea is to go through all different phases of research and how generative AI can help, and how it is transforming the different parts of research. Today's session is going to be on finding the research problem or the gap using AI, and the challenges, mainly the challenges, and how we can overcome those challenges. And we'll have in the future sessions on literature review, sessions on research question formulation, sessions on design, research design and methodology, sessions on data collection, how do you create data sets, and so on, experiments, research writing, ethical and responsible use, and future, how the research is going to be with AI. So these are the topics coming up. Just a teaser. But we have a lot more to come and a lot more guests to invite and get their experience shared. So for today, like we said, it's going to be finding research problems in the AI era. So the challenge in finding research problem is not really finding research problems, because if you take AI, it's so fast now. Those days we'll have to sit and brainstorm and talk to people, go behind our supervisors, talk to our senior researchers. We had to spend so much of time finding research topics or research problems, but not anymore. Now I can just go to ChatGPT and ask, give me 10 research problems without even saying what the research is. It'll still give me topics. It'll still give me research topic and research problem. Interestingly, would it really work? Right? Are they like really worth pursuing research problems? How do we identify such research problems and how do we navigate through this space to narrow down and find proper research problems that really can be we can work on? That is the theme of the discussion. And in fact, like, I'm not going to talk about it. We have an expert in particularly AI, machine learning, natural language processing. Prof. Udaya has been doing a lot of research in this area after his PhD and even before. And now he's, like Kapila said, head of the department, and also he runs a research center at Moratuwa related to similar area. So let me start asking Udaya. I'm going to call you there.
Yeah, please, just be
Right, so
casual,
we'll
please.
formal, yeah. Right. So, and the first question that I'm going to ask is, like I said, when students come up with research ideas, especially now with AI, uh, what are the things that can typically go wrong? Or only thing that can come right is you can get so many different research questions, right? So, what are the lot of things that can go wrong? And you can start from there. Where to?
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much, Adun and Roshan, Professor Roshan, for having me here, as well as the host of this, as well as the host of the session, like who is helping with the logistics, and the research center from the University of Pennsylvania for conducting the series is very valuable, timely, and I think this is going to really help a lot. I believe there's a lot of dialogue happening, around the world, especially with the social media. A lot of noise is there. Uh, uh, Especially the computer engineers in this part of the world, don't step a lot into this, social media platform and voice out and have dialogues. It has become partly we are the creators of such a noise. So some of these very valuable, very deep rooted conversations are being now not so much appreciated, and glad to see such a large number of people are listening to this, because people are complaining about attention span is reducing, and really looking forward to have a very you know, strong conversation where we go really deep, peeling the layers and see how far we can go. And that is why I got excited about this opportunity. And let's keep it informal, Roshan. Like, so it's easier that way. And thanks again for having me. So coming straight to the question that you opened up. So what are the places it could go wrong, right? So one major problem that I see is that people, when they use AI, they just go and ask a very broad question, as you put it out, like give me 10 research topics, right? So even if you ask like, okay, give me 10 research topics in IoT, right? Then again, I would say that it'll give you a very general answer to you, right? Now, I wanted a student to understand, when you want to do a project, you want to do a project that you kind of own, and you're very happy at the end when you finish it, right? So if you do this approach, instead of converging and build a persona for yourself, you'll get averaged out. That means almost everybody get this very similar ideas, and you'll jump into a very general purpose, general way of thinking about problems. That's one major concern I could think of. Second, when you converse with AI, and if you are really not dominate AI, you might end up getting into corners where you're stuck with thought process and you don't know how to come out, right? The third important problem is that you lose a taste of solving problems. If you start, simply use AI, right? The important thing I would like to highlight is that let's take a step back and understand research problem a bit more. That will let's set up a bit of a paradigm here. In computer engineering, at least in engineering in general per se, any problem that we solve, we wanted to make sure this problem is new, right? We don't want to solve a problem that has been solved. And that is where I think the most boring for most of the students step comes in. That is literature review. There was a time that you had to wait in the libraries to get the proceedings. Even when you download, you to go through a long process of time to understand. Now that get accelerated. So in research, that part is where you get AI to help you with. But if you expect AI to be, a task master where you can delegate work, you will really get into trouble. If you look at AI as a complementary factor, a companion to talk to, or an acceleration tool, then that will help. So this is the backdrop I would like to set up here.
So let me pitch or start from where you stopped. In fact, like you were talking about generalization, right? So everyone is going to have similar or sort of similar problems coming up. So if you even if you narrow it down, like I said, like you said, even if you don't ask specific general question, even if you ask specific question, it's still going to make it more generic. So there are also ideas like, for instance, can AI really generate new research questions? It's a controversial idea. Maybe you are being an AI researcher. Can you give us some insight?
Roshan, you touch a very interesting nerve here. Say, let's see. So this is a question I've been asking some of these humanitarian people, right? And I challenge them, whenever I meet them, like, look, there's a lot you have to contribute to AI. Can you define me what is creativity, right? We have generative AI. Do we have creative AI, right? Then come up questions like this: AI can draw, AI can write, it can write poems, it understand metaphors, to a certain extent. So can't we say it not creative? Is a very interesting question, right? So, if you want to go take sort of a swing at it in a very researchy manner, right? There is this concept of, when we started ontology in semantic web, we started to define knowledge in graph format, and we were looking at whether can the computer inference, right? So similarly, right now there is no bound or no clarity about AI, whether can it create or can it really infer, can it really go beyond what it has memorized from, right? So there's no research, there's no evidence so far categorically say AI is creative. So if you're not creative, you can create something new, right? Can it really give you a new research problem? However, I would like to flip it the other way around. It can really help you create a new problem fast. That's the key difference it makes, right? So if you have a research paper and you find difficult to understand, right? Now you can understand it a lot faster. You want to find a good research paper, you can find it a lot faster, right? You wanted to sort of filter out what are the relevance paper, you can do it a lot faster, right? So if I think anybody who wants to conduct research should have a foundation on how to conduct research. Okay, what are the steps and why they are important? Keeping that in mind will help, right? To find a new research problem. So can AI really find a new research problem? I would say it is neither yes, not a no. It's like hypothesis testing, not disproved, not proved, because it's very hard to define what is creativity. It's like it'll go into a very different bound analysis where can we, has it really has it really memorized all the, subclass sequences it has learned and try to, speculate from it, or has it really started to figure out things, really understand it, right? That's a very interesting question, which is not being proved, which need a lot of deep analysis. But can really it help to make find a good research problem? Yes, and also a lot faster.
Yeah, that's like a different way of looking at it, and I think the students will definitely take that note of that, right? So I think that what you are really saying is you don't really have to look at AI to give you a problem, but use it to find your problem. right?
Yes.
So use it the best way possible. There you can make it faster. You can literature review and whatnot. You can do it faster. Learning, you can do it much faster. Understanding, now you can any research paper. Those days, some of the research papers. So researchers, we also wanted to show our colors and write papers much harder, right? So that's something that we do. And then when somebody else wanted to read it, and at least early researchers want to read it, it becomes so hard. Now it's becoming so easy. Even there are specific prompts to say, okay, tell me this like how you say it to a 5-year-old or 10-year-old and so on. So you can bring down what you really want to do. And so that's perfect. And I think that matches what the students need to do as well. So the next thing that you highlighted is the if you're going to ask AI to give research problems, it can take you to a corner, you said. I picked that word, the corner. So I assume what you're talking about, it is like you might get into AI, might get into a pattern and give you a similar pattern type of setup and not out of the box. That I hope is what you mean by corner.
Yeah,
So do
well,
you get what it is?
yeah, I can elaborate it a little more. So sometimes what happens is that uh, AI will keep giving the same answer despite whatever the different problem you try to take it to a different thinking pattern, right? So there is this is somewhat due to the fact that how AI is designed, etc. Like it does personalization, it tries to memorize you a lot, and it has certain fixated ways of learning it has. So you'll converse about it. Okay, I want to do a research about let's say IoT. I'm looking at embedded ML for this type of problem, etc. And then you wanted it to think, okay, I don't want this domain of problem. I'm not interested in, let's say, how efficiently you can compare to ML model. I'm looking at like how sort of hardware can be redesigned. So it might still keep giving you like how to condense the AI models, pre-trained models into a efficient way. What are the different techniques are used? It'll keep giving you that answer without really going out because of the previous conversation you have, etc. Right? So it may put you in a corner, like you'll be like frustrated with the AI, like, hey, you don't understand, you're dumb too, right? So that is what I meant. So in a way, you can look at it as it cannot think out of the box, it cannot go beyond it. So um, uh, you had to then probably sometimes what I do, like I just switch to another AI tool completely and let's talk to somebody new, right? And then I sometimes have a few new completely new conversation again without keeping the history and etc. So because there may be situations where I felt you lock into a into a corner and you don't AI doesn't know how to come out of it, whatever the directions that you give it to it.
Oh, I see. Okay, that is what you meant. Right. So these sort of things are maybe it's more going to be a philosophical question, but I'll still ask. So are these an AI specific thing, or what about people like researchers, us like young researchers? Would they also do they also go into, I'm just reflecting, do they also go into something similar when they start until they figure out how to break out of the tradition and the same way of doing things? I mean, it's sort of, I feel like it's more like how we also do things. Is it more amplified by AI, or is it something different?
Yeah, so I agree with you. It's just that the reasons for why human do maybe due to emotional and other corners that A doesn't have, because A is ultimately a system that is very well trained, and there is certain amount of deterministic plus certain amount of randomness, whatever the way that model is engine out, right? But human may not come out of a corner because of some of the premeditated ideas they have, or due to the stress, they lack to think out of the thing. And whether it's young or old, we have our own reasons to sort of get ourselves locked into a corner or cage and don't look out of it kind of situation. Yes, it's human do have. It's only the reasons why things differs. But what I find out was that AI does that a lot of time when you try to give it a very complex task, right? So this is where the prompt engineering become the master nowadays. I think a part of the language skill, communication, presentation skill, we probably have to include prompt engineering as just one module. I look at it as a very basic sort of one kind of thing. It's not, even though the word engineering is there, it's not that complicated. However, a lot of it goes with how do you talk, how do you think, right? Like it's attached to that. So English teaching have to now have a module called how to talk to AI, right? How to talk to people, how to talk to public, how to talk to your supervisor, how to write email, how to write to AI become another module there. So that's how I look at it.
That's important and interesting. Yeah. So I didn't think about it like that. Yes, I thought like prompt engineering is very important, and we have been talking about it. But yeah, it's a communication skill,
This is
and therefore, yeah, it has to be part of. Yeah, so that's something interesting. Now that I'm at the luxury of having an AI researcher and an expert, so I should also dig a little deep into AI per se, right? So you mentioned about randomness. Maybe you should because we are sort of sometimes irritated by these generative AI tools giving different answers. Sometimes irritated, sometimes it's hallucinate, and we were like, okay, what the hell is it doing, and so on. But then that is what I think makes the randomness of the generative AI is what it makes it more interesting than all the previous deterministic models and systems we had. Now that you know you are an expert in this, so maybe you should share some thoughts about how why the AI randomness is something that is worth pursuing, and why are we having all this generative AI? It's not, I'm going a bit off our original topic, but because you
it's
mentioned
fun. Yeah. So I think randomness is a sort of a crude approximation of what is happening there. If there is a expert might not happy with the way that I am going to term it, but
yeah,
I'm
that's
terming it
okay.
this.
Just
Yeah,
to give you some
I'm
background.
terming it this way primarily because for the benefit of the audience to get the picture right. So this concept of hallucination, or the concept of generation to begin with, where like there is a bit of wowness, there is a bit of going beyond our idea, right? It's not new, right? If you take it a step back, where we had information retrieval system, right? When we start searching on Google or any IR system for that matter, there is a concept called zig and zag, right? You have something in mind, you search, but we wanted to also take you out of that, right? For example, like in YouTube, you like A.R. Rahman music, you like certain Sri Lankan baila, you like certain kind of melody, you keep watching that, you're stuck to that videos. You don't come out of that, right? So but YouTube wanted you to watch more. There are new things come, so they zack. They always, you have certain thing in your mind, you have some preference, your stick, but they always test your taste and try to diversify you. This is same with products as well. You go to buy in an e-commerce system, you have certain things you always like. They will try to give you something off the bat, something so that you can, that's the way things works. So there is always a need for zack. You know what you want, you give, that is it. Zag is just, we always have to sort of give something slightly off, right? Now, generative AI have this concept of temperature, so you can set the temperature high or low to reduce the hallucination or the amount of liberty it has in testing out various options for you. And you set the temperature, to such a way that it can reduce hallucination. Or, it'll try to give you the same answer for the same question again and again. But you don't want the same answer for the same question again and again, because that's boring, right? It's human also, you don't want to talk to a person who gives the same answer again and again either, right? So that is why as a feature, or as a cautious decision, it's been built that way. But hallucination is very interesting, different topic than randomness. Hallucination is more like AI, because of the way it's set up, AI might answer you even it doesn't know. The risk is possible. It'll sound so confident, even even though he has no idea about what he's talking about, right? We have seen a lot of people like that too, right? But then again, like when AI does it, people tend to believe because of the branding and everything, etc. People will tend to believe. That is where then we had to be really cautious about. So a lot of careful prompting and a lot of other skills are needed. I'll probably later touch upon. There's a paradigm I have in mind. Is what I recommend my students, that when you want to do a research problem, there's a paradigm that you should look at. If you go that approach, that you can solve. But again, coming back to your question, yes, I hope that I've touched upon a few things there.
Yeah. Thank you. That's interesting. Yeah. So how the randomness is built in, and how do you think is it something useful for the research question finding part of it? I see some connection because you took examples from e-commerce and whatnot, media, and
It does, right? It does. Otherwise, as I said, like it'll just keep giving you the same kind of answers. Like it had to. So it is its own way of sort of coming out of the corner that I mentioned earlier, right? It had to has that ability to go, not to give the same repetitive, same, not to take the same route. It had to take a slightly different route to give you a slightly different answer. That is essential for an AI tool. You can't escape, but it comes with a price.
Yeah, that definitely is. So that's the first thing I would ask, the challenges of, I mean, how do we, like, okay, we get so many questions and how do we come out of it? And so it's more on, like, well, like you said, just to summarize what you're discussing is, yes, it can help you, but you should not just completely pass your responsibility, what you want to try to do into AI, and then let it give you an answer, but use it for accelerating in a lot of different ways, starting from finding research, for summarizing, all sort of different, starting from finding literature and summarizing and whatnot, and even from refining. So it's more of a refining problem, and put yourself into it and come out of it. So let me move on to a more serious, because you also already pointed that I have a method, right? So yes, we all want to know your method. So let me go into the method related question. So let's say the students have a broad idea of research, right? So by the way, just to give you some background, all students who are here are not computer science background. They are also from physics and others. So yeah, I mean,
That's good. That's good.
yeah, that coverage is good. Yeah. So if the students start with the broad idea, and let's say they are using generative AI, and they want to have this process, you are the golden process, or the method that you have in mind. Why don't you, do you want to share
Sure.
what you're proposing?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily golden, but it is somewhat tested and proven, I would say. Here is the thing, right? There are, so if you take a problem solving, research, problem finding point of view, there are three pieces I believe that's very, very important, right? So one is your memory skills, right? Any researcher needs to have a memory, and that should have two pieces, as the theory says: the short-term one that you have it here, and the long-term one that you have slightly back at the brain. I'm not going to teach you anatomy, but the whole idea is that there should be RAM and the hard disk, both should be efficient, right? The second thing that you need is your analytical skill, right? That is very, very important. Without analyzing, you won't be able to sort of, go and do. The third is basically very, very important with regard to AI, is judgment skills. Now, those who know higher education teaching knows we do a lot of judgment as part of our work. Number one, judgment is very, very important for an expert to have. So when you are conversing with AI, how it works is very traditional. It's nothing new. You have to basically go and read a literature about the thing that you want to work on. But as you pointed out very interestingly, that now a student have a general idea about research, right? That's good. Let first the students need to sort of explore that idea in a way, and sort of narrow it further and further. Now, I used to give this example to my students, right? You can basically try to come up with a new chair idea, right? You can come up with a arm idea for a chair. You can come up with the best sophisticated arm which lets you sit for long hours for an office chair, right? You can come up with an arm for a chair, an idea for an arm for a chair that is suitable for a living room, or maybe suited for a TV recording area where someone is going to sit and give you interview or something. So these are different contexts, right? So for any research problem, there are two things. One is a problem and a solution. This is classic for engineering. I think other things might have slightly different things. You can have a novelty in terms of problem. That is, you are trying to solve a new problem. You might solve a problem that is already existing, which is already solved, but you are coming up with a new solution, right? You are solving an existing problem. There is a solution already exists. You're improving the solution. These are some of the standard combinations that we work with, right? We don't want to solve an already solved problem with an already solved solution. That is not research at all, right? Other three, there is some research. The impact and the respect that you get might differ on how do you sort of, take that further. Now, in this backdrop, as I said, AI will help you. So memory it's all finally yours. You really have to remember that. But to quickly warm up your memory on a topic, AI can help, right? Now I can take a computer science topic which is out of my comfort area. Like, for example, I'm an AI researcher, that's wrong. I'm an NLP researcher, that's wrong. I'm an NLP, researcher, specifically work on voice. Maybe that's what recently I worked in the past, information retrieval. That's a very niche area, right? That's how researchers are, right? So what I'm trying to tell is that even though I am being an information retrieval researcher, I can quickly learn sort of now, something related to NLP faster. Maybe a little far from NLP, maybe slower than this, but a lot faster than before, because AI tools nowadays gives a lot of interesting way. But it's come with two skills I have been trained really hard on my school time or my early learning time. One is memory. Other one is my analytical skills. You should be able to question. And when an answer is present to you, you should have a taste, right? You go someplace, you eat a food, you should know is it something you like or not. If you can't make the decision quick and fast, you're doomed. So these are three skills that you need to develop, and that is still needed in AI. It is accelerated the way that you can taste things, and you can taste many things quickly and fastly. That's the only difference.
Wow. Interesting. Why interesting is because I asked you a question about how to like come up with a method to find research problems, and then what you explained to me is it's very generic actually. It's
It
about
is.
everything.
It's
It's about
true. That is true.
but it really matches, and it also helps me think about and ask a lot of other questions about AI and the AI interaction that people are having. And I think it already answered number of them, because nowadays there are like, I mean, when I talk to my students, some of them young and so on, and like young meaning like the first years and so on. So what they're saying is, why should I now remember things? I can search and find. I don't have to memorize things. I don't have to remember anything. Memory is not like, seems like not very useful. Okay, analytical same maybe somewhere there, because AI also is going to come and catch up on it, and it's going to be analytical and judgmental and so on. So, but then you brought up at the right place, like, okay, so if you have to do a proper research and you have to find a problem, you have to have all that so that you can converse and you can do this better, right? So it applies to every other thing that you do with AI, I believe, and that's why I meant what I meant by, yeah. So that's okay. So I mean, do you want to say anything about like those who think, okay, memory is not so useful because now we have enough computer memory and also fast way of retrieving them, and also like you said, RAM and hard drive, you have enough of it, and you have really fast way of retrieving them. Actually, what the counter argument is, you can also talk to it and retrieve it. Earlier, you had to search and query, and which is difficult. Now anybody can talk and retrieve. What's your take?
See, so let's say that the same example I took. I wanted now invent a new arm for a chair, right? Now, if I knew something about material engineering, if I knew something about designs and curves, and if I knew something about anatomy of arm and everything, and I have to put this together, if I can dynamically put in my mind, I can really drive the car. See, if you expect AI to do all these things, it will really mess up. AI is very good at giving you suggestions for a narrowed down, very well defined problem. Now, if the people, students can easily test it out. Go and ask a question like this, right? Go and ask a question like, give me a good idea for a chair arm design. Very simple question, straightforward, reasonably open design, in my opinion. Instead of it, tell, I want to design a chair. I am a first year student who has this experience, right? I am designing it for a 3-month in-class research project, right? So you bound the time, you tell who you are, why you are building it out, and you are telling this is for this type of chair, this is for office chair. I am building it so that it helps somebody to sit for long without having a back pain, without to stress their arm for too long. So what is your objective? Everything, if you bake it up in one prompt, it gets narrows it down. Again, there's an interesting concept in AI. Again, this is very common chain of thought. That is that if you are asking it for to give you a solution for anything, break it down, task it out, and go one by one. Then you get better. The narrower the scope that you give, the smaller the problem that you give, AI does a relatively better job. If you give a very complex things, the answer it is going to give will be pages and pages, and it will confuse you, right? Number one. Number two, why memory is important, right? Why memory is important is that AI is a good companion, as I said. It is not a master, right? And I think if you really want you to be useful for the society, don't let it be a master. If AI is a master, I'll buy an AI. I will not hire you. Very simple, right? So if AI is not a master, it can only be an assistant, then you really need to dominate it. Then whatever the information it has given, can you memorize it? Can you remember? Can you put in your RAM? And there is a certain core skill you have in your backend that have to come handy. Otherwise, what will happen is it will take a long time for you to process what is in front of you. The third part, as I said, analytics, maybe people have maybe able to do. I don't know how to do that analytics without memory, but judgment, how do you do that? Because you have certain other things, and ideas also pops to your mind as you have a conversation with AI, as you navigate the space of literature, yourself, right? So you have some idea about some mathematics matrix operation somewhere you learn, and you are talking about some other problem about transformers and attention, etc. It clicks and you're like, okay, if I apply this equation here, it'll be faster, right? Like, can I try it out? So you can validate that with AI. You can ask AI, hey, will it work? It might say yes and no. It will give you. Then that's the way it works. So my view is like, if you have ever worked, have got work from somebody, at least we have experience, you and me, working with research students or TAs giving task. And when they come back and say, I've done it, you have to verify it. You're like, okay, show me. And then you're like, oh, no, this is not what I asked you. So there is a lot of conversation go with you. Same with AI, right? At least humans have sense and empathy and can read eyes and be reactive. AI can't be. Yet,
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
yet, at least yet.
At least yet, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely, that's very true, and I think like you have, like I told you, you have given a really good overall idea about the three steps, and also it also goes beyond what a tool and an AI like a machine learning model can do, and what we had to do, where we had to fit in. So that's like really useful, and I believe the students will take it positively and use it and understand and also become the masters, like you were saying, right? So in this process of still at the methodology, in this process, we will talk specifically about the literature later in more detail, but where do you see the literature literature fit in? You just touched upon the area by saying, yes, it fits in like you can accelerate it, like you can do it faster and so on. But in more detail, where does it fit in properly, like within the research question
So,
five, like
yeah.
yeah.
So let's go back to basics and for the benefit of the students again. Any research, right? We keep asking them, okay, what is the research gap? So that tells that there is a problem that is not solved. So how do I find a research gap? And how do I confirm that there is a research gap? Those things you can do faster. Now, faster, what I meant is there was a time like maybe 20 years ago, maybe before the digital indexes came in, you had to go to a library, stay in a queue, get the proceedings, see whether that paper really makes sense. You spend a week, then you go back and then wait for another 2-3 weeks to get the another proceedings. That was the time. Then came a digital era. You can quickly download the PDF, but you still have to scratch your head. As you said, some of the papers you don't understand. Sometimes how they've gone from step A to B, they'll just mention 2 steps. You need to read another 10 papers to figure things out. Now, all these are on a fingertip, but you need a question. You need to keep question, right? I remember a lot of students used to tell me when then they are being given one paper to read, they'll be like, to understand, I have to read a lot of references. To understand the reference, I have to read a lot of, it's just expanding like a tree, and I am stressed. A student who is stressed in a 1 month, I think is a good student. Like he understand the path, he has put the effort. So then I'm like, calm down. This is how we have been going through. Like, it's okay. Student who doesn't get stressed, he doesn't explore. So he's not trying to make sense out of this paper. Now, the benefit for the student is that he can cut through the language barrier, right? You can ask it to explain it to me like a grade 5 student. Explain to me because, see, I don't understand this word. Can you explain this? So that exploration becomes a lot faster, right? That is with the AI. Now, coming back to literature review, why literature review? It helps you with the research gap. You have to start there, right? Number one. Number two, once you find a research gap, right? Let's say there is a gap that you want to solve. We want to know, does it really helps the humanity? I don't want you to do something that has no benefit for anybody. Like that's what his motivation is about. So you can ask the AI, okay, I think these are the motivation. Do you think you believe with me? You can confer with the AI as a companion, or you can ask it like if you can't really think motivations for your research, you ask AI, okay, can tell me why I should solve this problem. Why do you think this problem solving helps, right? So start with the gap. You found why we need to help. It helps certain people, or certain way to improve the energy. It brings the world peace, whatever, right? So the third part of the puzzle is it challenging enough? So that's why I said, like at the beginning of giving a very long context for a problem, I said 3 months in class project. So there's a scope for it. There's expectation set to that way. So this is my MPhil thesis. That's a different expectation altogether. This is I am targeting an A-star conference. There's a different. So what I'm trying to tell is that challenge part tells you, is this fit what the challenge I'm aspiring to do, right? So research literature review give you a good research gap, right? That's very important. And it trains you on the background of the problem enough so that you can also argue about motivation for it, right? As well as you should be able to tell the challenges of solving this problem. Challenges as in, I wanted to understand what you're solving is something a week of effort, something a 2 weeks of effort, something. What are the steps that really involves in tackling this problem? You have to convince that. So this is part research problem finding is not just finding a problem. You have to find a problem, understand the size of it, understand the impact of it. All three put together only we normally approve a problem in a traditional setup.
Yeah, so that in fact gives us so we have an idea, and now we also have a possible, like we should also now have a gap like that you have listed down from the literature and how it is connected. And the next thing that we would want to know in a research problem is that is it worth pursuing? So you pointed out a few things like, okay, you pointed out it should be something that is worth, something that is useful. By the way, so I don't know, like, I mean, there could be also counter arguments, right? So whether something is useful now, useful in the future, would it be useful in the long run? So because there are we know for a fact a lot of maths and research that was done in the long
Correct.
past, just done out of yeah, they were interesting and out of just curiosity. So but then now we are more into application oriented research, and also I support your idea, because a country like Sri Lanka, we should do a lot of application oriented research so that we can apply and make sure it's immediately useful and we can come out of this where we are and so on. So what I wanted to ask you is, how do we evaluate, right? So how do we take the problems and, like, okay, now I have like few problems and I want to evaluate it in a systematic way. Like, you can also connect it to, because the students we have, they also might not have a lot of research experience as well. So therefore you can also connect it to from a research point of view, how to evaluate and how I can use AI to make it better.
Not every research need to have a motivation, which I can understand, because maths, for example, we solved some equations hoping that it'll then fit, and it has helped. So if you take human literature, for example, you are conducting analytical study or something, what is its motivation? Maybe possible, maybe not possible in no matter area. There may be cases like that, which is possible, right? Which is fine, which is a questionable thing. But in general, from an evaluation point of view, when research is coming, for let's say for academic setup to evaluate, we normally look for whether the problem is relevant, right? Number one. Number two, whether this problem is scoped, sized enough. Number three, is it feasible? These are the three major things normally people look at, right? Feasibility is one thing that you should very carefully look at, whether you have the right data, if it is data driven, you have the right tools, you have the right resource, will it be timely available for you? What's the cost part of it? These are very important question earlier you should know, because you don't want to take a project where you don't have access to large GPUs, but then you want to conduct an AI research. You don't have access to certain apparatus, but you want to conduct certain chemical this thing without having the necessary apparatus, so access to that. So that's very important, the feasibility part and etc. This is how they are looking at it. If you look at a research that is getting published, what they primarily look at is, number one is novelty. Is it new problem? Number two is impact, right? That is more than, is go beyond motivation, in my opinion. Impact, that, how does it kind of change the research world? Does it contribute anything? So impact, is there. Now, sometimes research is being appreciated, even though it doesn't have a novelty, it has a contribution contribution to the research work. For example, I create this data set, it's useful, right? I kind of found out this about this model. I didn't build a model, nothing. I just studied this model. I found out new learning about this model. That's also useful. Contribution is appreciated, right? And then obviously, can you clearly present it, right? That's very, very important for a publication point of view. How clear and simple narrative you put it into is very, very important. The more you complicate it, I am like, I don't understand, so you also don't know how to explain your research. That's not good. So a good scholar should be able to explain his or her research in a very simple words. Somebody can understand, also understand the audience and be able to explain. This very, very important skill of a researcher. So this is the expectation sort of at the two level, I would say, how, where the researcher evaluated. Does it make sense? Like, did I
Yeah,
answer your question?
yeah, that makes sense. So the what research is, and yeah, most important I would say is, yeah, the story. So you should know the story, right, to tell. Like even the example you took about the chair, you gave a nice story, right? So we didn't just say, okay, we want to build a chair with a good arm, but we bring the story. We say so that it motivates people, and there are a lot into it which we are not discussing. Things like if you want to get funding from somebody to do research, obviously you have to tell a story. You can't go and say,
Yes.
right? So that's
And
main.
and and Roshan, sometimes I have seen that, especially in the publication domain, the narrative sometimes shift your paper from one tier to the other. It's not only the novelty. How do you narrate it? That's very, very important.
Mhm. Yeah, so just to add to it, like the next part of the same question is, can AI, how AI can come in into these parts? Is it just going to be a query you ask and it can tell you whether it's novel, whether it is impactful, whether it is relevant, and so on, or can you go beyond? How do we deal bring AI into this?
Yeah. So if you look at AI research assistant tools, right? At least a few I have explored. Right? There may be some other tools from the audience side. I'm happy to listen. AI tools have been predominantly been developed a lot towards literature review, right? The writing tools are still scratching the surface. They are more like, okay, spelling checker, grammar checker. Even Word was doing well before these tools comes in. Does it a better job at contextualized grammar checking, obviously. Then paraphrasing. Then in paraphrasing also, like there are tools like, okay, paraphrase like Humanify and other things, so that you want to beat these AI detectors. Some conferences and some places are using, and that is not narrative writing. Narrative setting, you should have that art in you. Then you tell, you demand an AI tool to sit to your narrative. You should have that in you. Don't expect AI to sort of make you a good narrator. That doesn't going to help you. But here is the interesting thing, right? Um, you can even ask AI for suggestions of narrative. The more that you know about this art of art of conversing with AI, you get better at asking the right questions. So let's take this example that you asked, right? The specific focus that we have here. How do you verify the research? Right, that's a broader question, right? Under that, you wanted to know, is it relevant? Is it size enough, etc. Right? So first of all, you should know, right? To evaluate a research, what are the ways to evaluate it? Or else, if you don't know that, at least ask the AI, okay, I wanted to evaluate a research. How should I ask you about it? So you can prompt a prompt, right? That also works with AI. But this is very much become mechanical if you try to keep mimicking it, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, if I tell you the top 10 prompts, that'll be useful, of course. But if you stick to that and you cannot just go beyond, there's no thinking in you, what will happen is you'll average it out. Right? Everybody will mimic the same way. There's a rubric, you print it like so, AI too can print. Like, see, the systematic review has been taken out of uh, you know um, uh, archive, right? Like they stopped, a lot of conferences stopped allowing you publishing systematic review. Why? Because just people put to AI, it give you, because literature survey papers, literature survey tools become very popular in AI. It's all about putting the AI, survey, a lot of literature, relevant literature into some sort of format and give you a nice report. AI tools become so good at it, and it looks very nice and complex. So people realize, okay, there's a lot of AI-driven systematic reviews, and they stopped it. Right? It just condenses the information for you. That's it. Summarizing the information for you. But does it summarize meaningfully? There is a novel, even systematic review has novelty that people don't understand. Like so that part is very difficult to analyze, and a lot of papers came out of this. That's why they stopped it, right? So coming back, as I said, so let's also take a swing at here. AI has a lot of capabilities. Then people build on top of that layers where they take a process. Like, for example, I wanted to validate a paper, let's say, right? Then what I will do is validate an idea. I'll be asking, well, give me your idea. So then I'll just narrow the idea. I'll have a workflow built out of it, which is going to behind the scene. I'll have an AI, right? And then the workflow I define, it will be some sort of a process that is already been developed and better, how to verify a research idea. So I'll first ask, okay, is this, I'll ask the AI, is this topic narrow enough? Right. Then I'll ask of what purposes. I'll ask the question for the client. So it'll become a tool like that, where you will actually prompt through, or chain of thought will be scripted for you. You'll stick to that process always. You don't innovate. You always stick to that. That kind of tools evolving. So currently for verifying research idea exclusively, there is no AI tool I could find, right? But general purpose AI tools does everything and anything. But there are a lot of AI tools that is popping up now called literature learning. So what they can do, you can start with a set of keywords. It gives you a relevant literature. You can filter them. You can create, okay, these are the important literatures for me. Then you create a source for, a source out of that. Then start questioning only that source to find out. And so it's kind of give a structure like that, more like research gap finding kind of thing, but it doesn't give you very strict workflow how other AI tools are built on. Like, similar to a workflow being taken, laid upon AI tools, there are different hundreds of tools now, not only in research domain, other domain, like whatever, they just create a workflow, you just fill in the values, backend it just hit the right prompt for you and give the values, right? So interestingly, in research, as I said, reviewing this research ideas, finding new research ideas, literature, not much workflow tools has not come, primarily because it's relatively open-ended problem, and there's no fixed standard, structures of novelty creation, I believe. Right. So if you try to put one, then it'll just keep averaging out. Same thing will keep coming. Like, so that's not innovation anymore. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think you hit, yeah. So in fact, like you were talking about the corner. So we don't want to go into the corner, I believe, and that is making complete sense. And also it connects to how the research, or even young researchers like the students who are here, can use their memory, the analytical skills, and then the judgment to connect these things together, and also keep asking and brainstorming, we call it, right? So keep asking what you feel like asking, and then figure out, okay, so therefore they should know a certain number of things, and they have to build those skills on how to find something is relevant. Yeah, worst case, if you don't know, you can go and ask an AI tool how to find relevance, but you still have to ask, because that's something maybe you should highlight to us a bit. Because, for example, if I ask an AI tool whether this topic is a good topic, is very different from I ask an AI tool whether this topic is good in the sense of relevance, in the sense of feasibility, in the sense of novelty. Because if I just ask whether it is good, it might say good or bad. Most probably it will say good, because it's trying to keep you happy, right? So that difference, can you just elaborate about a bit on why it is doing so and what it is doing?
Yeah. So let's devise that question again. So when it comes to first thing is that asking AI for prompt, right? My favorite analogy is if you're in a relationship, right? And especially there's a famous comedy scene in Tamil movie as well. A hero tried to woo a girl. So he tries A, he tries B, he tries C, numerous ways of trying to woo the girl. He just couldn't find a way. So finally he just fell in the feet of the girl and asked, "Hey, can you tell me how can I woo you?" Right. So similar analogy goes for AI tool. Like, you just don't know how to ask, or what is the right way of talking to AI. Just go and tell the AI, "Hey, look, I have this problem. I don't know what's the best way of asking you. Can you tell me?" That's what is prompting for a prompt. So that's being said, that is one thing. That being said, now evaluation, right, is very important. It connects to judgment skill. I always one of my favorite questions in the exam, and I poses this during my lectures as well. I ask students, okay, can you tell me this or that, which is better? Can you at least compare? That's step one of judging. Step two is, this is there. Can you tell me this is right or wrong? I want all the students who listen to this very carefully, right? This is very important for engineering, right? A lot of judgment are subjective. For example, this conversation me and Professor Roshan has, do you like it? Very subjective. Some people like it, some people don't like it. Some people say initially it was okay, late it was boring, first half was good, second like a movie review. Yeah, you do, right? But engineering is very smart, right? Well, that's what I love engineering. It takes that judgment, try to make it as much as objective as possible. You can't remove judgment at all. There'll be always a judgment. ChatGPT versus cloud. You can have an objective view. You can have magic quadrant saying this is this, this is that. But can you evaluate every damn aspect of AI tools? No. So how engineering looks at any assessment? Okay, this is very standard, and you might find this straightforward after explain, and you'll find how AI tools also tackle this. Most of the time, when you ask AI to evaluate or suggest something or compare something, what it normally does is a table. It identifies attributes it's going to use to evaluate. And each attribute, it'll compare A solution, B solution, and give you. Right? Here, in this case, you have only one idea, or maybe you have two ideas you want to compare, right? So first of all, you have to identify what attributes, what metrics you want to evaluate the research problem. So I have given few already, like I said, relevance. Is it relevant to your research, your topic, your domain? Right? Size, scope. Is it sized enough for the type of project that you do? Feasibility. Can you really do it in that time? Do you have all access to all the required things, right? So then you can break it down. Okay, what is the impact? Where can I publish it? So you have other objectives. Let's say I want to publish 2 papers. Can I publish 2 papers out of this idea? So then so I have 3 members. So whereas this member has this skill, so you add more and more information into the puzzle, you can solve it. But so as I said, if you want to judge anything in AI, first of all, ask AI, what are the metrics, what are the attributes in which we are going to judge it? If AI might give you, again, that's where you have to be really on top of it. AI is not an oracle. It is not neither a god. It cannot give you the holistic answer for every question in the world. It is not. If let's say there is a new science domain that is not yet explored, and there's no documents about it so far, can AI really create it? That's the question mark. Creativity goes back to original question. But suppose there's a new science field just came and there are only 2 research papers published so far, and you want to do a research, you really need your skills now. AI can only do is, you can just, if you upload the paper, you can quickly understand it and try to give, explain that paper to you the fastest possible way. But even there, it will lack because some of the jargons and everything might be not there for you. So what I'm trying to tell you is that judgment is very important in AI. Every answer that is in front of you, you should be able to judge it. And there is a standard, some standard I can give you about how to judge some process, attribute way, look at each attribute, have some way of evaluating, try to make it as objective as possible, but there's still some subjectiveness in it, right? You have to have a taste of for yourself.
That's really good. I mean, just before I let you show something to us, maybe a small demo of something from your side. Before doing that, I just have one last question from your experience. Like, you have been talking to a lot of students, dealing with students, and what do you think is happening to the students? What is your opinion about the students' take on this topic? Like, are they really into it? How are they doing it? And maybe some tips, because why I'm asking that is, usually we don't get our side of what we see from students shared. I think if you share it, maybe it will be useful, you being an expert. Yeah.
So students do really see it as a shortcut. That's their first look at it, which I can understand. Maybe was a student, right? Why a student would look at it as a shortcut to get marks, and marks is their motivation, they are learning, which I can understand. As an educator, I also continuously reinvent myself to figure out ways to sort of challenge them to push their boundaries with this tool. While they look at AI as a shortcut rather than a companion or a tool to improve their process, right? They also have back of their mind, they worry, where will it lead me to, right? Especially long term, will I have a career? Will it really help me have a career, right? Students keep asking me this question, will AI take some of the jobs I am already getting trained, right? And another thing that is not just AI alone is that they kind of struggling or not sure how to tackle is that how I keep myself on top of the game. Right? Things are changing. There are new information coming almost in our field. Like daily, there are some updates about, AI, AI related matters. So how do I stay on top of this game? Do I really go every day, read certain Medium blogs, at least certain number of tweets, go through certain number of YouTube videos? How do I really stay on top of this game? It's one of the challenging things. I think even professionals like us, have developed a set of skills over time, and certain ways of picking and choosing our battles and etc. to stay on top of the game. And unlike certain other fields, our field is rapidly changing, and there may be a completely new thing that'll throw you out of the game, right? And unless you kind of find a way to learn that, and by the time you learn it, there'll be a new one. So that's one thing I believe students keep find trouble, difficult, even with this thing. And they also don't know even to use AI tool and stay out of the game. Can they really, how to do it? They kind of don't know. So three things, as I said, just to summarize it. Number one, they will look at AI as a shortcut to find quick wins, easy and quick wins. However, they do have a fear at the back of the mind. Third thing, they just don't know how to stay on top of these waves and dynamicity of this field.
Are you worried for them?
No. If I survived, I'm sure they will survive. They will be a different they will be a different species than me, and that is part of the evolution. And I just believe that we may, evolution has its like crisscross way of choosing, but eventually the mighty and the strongest will survive. So which is the mighty, which is strongest, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. I think for another several decades, until I'm alive, human race will still be okay.
Yes, definitely. That's like really insights, and I think that reflection is really useful for the students to also understand that we see you, like we see the concerns that you have and also the opportunities that you take for different reasons, and good reasons, and sometimes good, not good, so good. But then yeah, so they also see. I mean, if they are serious about it, they always in back of their mind, they also think, okay, am I should doing it right? Should this is what I be doing, and so on, right? So it's
One other thing along that, this is slightly different but very relevant, because your angle, it has a benefit for the generation. I wanted to point it out. When people keep me asking about will AI take your jobs and etc., there's this famous thing like AI will not take your jobs, but people who knows AI will take your jobs. That's the famous saying several years back quoted by this CTO, right? But I just tell another important thing, right? It is going to it is going to spread out the population a lot wider, right? For example, previously, a lot of, if you take some of these, best students pooled, right? A lot of people will be in the 90 to 100 marks, 80 to 90, right? Now it is going to push them apart. Really smart guy will stand out, and you cannot really camouflage yourself with them because AI is there. A lot of people use AI will jump and match you easily and fast. And you will like, you with your, if you have very limited skill and you have your gaps, that will be, now AI is going to allow somebody to fill the gap quickly, right? So now you really had to stand out. You need some long attention span. Can you think through a problem for long? Can you withstand pressure? There's that important skill somebody has around that manner. That guy is going to stand out very, very clearly, and that it is going to show that outliers out, and everybody else can get average in the middle, right? So that's where, as I said, the three skills really matters: judgment skills, etc. Because earlier, like, with some gaps, you be able to slightly jump into that 90 marks, 70 to 8. Like now, no. AI is going to put everybody into one basket, everybody gets 90. There is one guy who'll get 100. That's the difference it's going to make. That's my judgment.
okay. Interesting, because yeah, I also have a similar idea, but not specifically about marks, but in general, what I think is, yeah,
Marks is an analogy, but yes.
market knowledge, yeah, in generally, yeah. So the idea is that, okay, so earlier, if you can solve like a reasonable problem, or if you can write nicely, but right, if you can write nicely, you can stand out, and it's becoming it's easy, right? So but now it's going to be more challenging, and also you have to sharpen your human skill, right? So that's you have to sharpen your human skill to stand out, and be that top of the class and top of the group and so on, right? So yeah, so that very well
Yeah,
connects.
writing is a classic example. There was a job called block writers, right? content writers, right? Now you can't be a content writer. Yeah, you could do a reasonably good job just knowing a good language and recent grammar and able to, poetically put together. No, AI can do. So you had to be a really smart writer. You had to really outsmart AI and everybody else, like stand in that top corner. Then people value you.
Yeah. That sort of bring us to a sort close of this conversation, but Uday had something to show us. You want to do a short?
Well, what I thought was just to show some examples of try to find a search problem, a few tools, and how literature review is important, etc. Like a very small demo, and happy to take questions if there is any, throughout this demo as well as after this, if there is. So let me share first of all. Right. I hope people can see. So I'm going to just give you, so I'm using 4 tools here. One is ChatGPT, then one is Perplexity, then Undermined, and then finally Elicit. So I'll put it in the chat for the benefit of the people, like all of you know, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and then Undermined, and then Elicit. So in these tools, like I'm going to use the free version, of course, but please understand that license versions give some more features. But that my objective of this conversation is neither to endorse a brand nor to promote anything, but just to give you sense of what is given, right? ChatGPT is general purpose conversation engine. It is for anything and everything to ask about, right? Sometimes nowadays, one of my favorite, this is, I don't have this color shirt, so what should I wear for this trouser? And you take a photo of yourself and it gives you a nice recommendation. So it can give any kind of recommendation, as I said, right? Now, but like if you want to ask it for a research problem, right? If you let's take a simple example, like the same chair example. I want to build a novel chair arm for office use. The objective is to build an armchair that lets someone sits longer, right? So it starts to give you an idea, first challenge, the premise, then how to go about it, whatever. It'll start give you a really big answer usually. That's what is expected in a chat GPT, right? So the way that you may want to modify this slightly for the benefit is that right, and then give it a persona. Right, that's very popular prompt engineering idea, that give a chat GPT a persona, like consider yourself as an expert designer, right? So if instead of that, if you say consider yourself as an expert carpenter, the answer will be very different. So what persona you want ChatGPT to assume, you give that, right? Then give me a 100-word executive summary. What you want out of it. It's very important. What exactly you look out from it, right? That's better to give that, and then it give you the specific answer that you look for. So it's very important that you contextualize as much as you can, right? However, as you can see, once the moment that you give the trigger, it just runs and solve your problem. ChatGPT, right? This is where Undermined or Elicit might be different. Is that, for example, if I give the same prompt I gave here, right? I'm just copy pasting the same prompt to Undermined. I want to build an owl chair arm for office use. The objective is to build blah blah blah. So the key difference in this AI research assistant tool is that it'll take a step. As I said, it has some workflow in mind. So first it'll see is your scope is big or small. And if he thinks it's big, it'll try to narrow it down. So it has a sense, or it'll give you hints like, hey, do you want to sort of think about only wooden shares? Do you think like that kind of conversation is what Undermine can do? Undermine is a very popular tool for literature review, and it can build like graphs and various things for you. And it's shown a lot of power. Obviously the Pro is far more powerful than the free version. Um, but it's a good tool to try it out. You are essentially in the ergonomic seating design space. Office chair arms can affect sustain. So it's directly found ergonomic seating space. Like it go into design thing for you. What do you mean by sit longer? So that's the key thing. It questions you back, which is not there in ChatGPT. You can. That's the major shift from a regular purpose conversation, chat agent to a research-driven chat agent. So if you go to Elicit, right, like so. It has like if you click this arrow here, like I'm clicking, find papers, chat with papers, extract data, research agent. So it has various sort of let me see. It has various set of sort of things in it. You can basically try to find they themselves call tools and workflows. So research agent is more like a bit of an advanced thing. So here, if I put same question, it'll act slightly differently. So that's the shift between tools, like the workflow they adapt, whether what kind of questions they ask, kind of thing. But other than that, so you can see like I want to build blah blah blah. It automatically find ergonomic arm design for extended comfort. Interestingly, Undermined or else it might necessarily use. I mean, might in fact use GPT-4 behind the scene. The major difference is the prompt templates they are baking for you, right? So they ran analysis, like they got 4 searches. So they're still thinking about and they'll find. So the Elicit is still giving you the idea. So I'll go to Perplexity at the end and show you. So as I shown in the Elicit before, like, basically you can upload a paper or you can just point to the URL and say like, ask about and try to understand the paper. A quick kind of ergonomics papers point to simple pattern. Chair arms help most when blah, blah, blah. Relief muscle activity. And these papers are cited. 211 lab study found the armrest. So it gives you more of a sort of a literature review kind of thing. And then you can do follow-up. You can sketch an armrest concept with keys. So it gives you follow-up prompts. This is there even in ChatGPT, but the next step kind of thing. But the good thing is it doesn't copy here, because sometimes people copy with the do you want to this thing and send the email? So that's one benefit kind of thing. But you can also look at the view sources part. It is actually backed by research papers, right? Unlike ChatGPT, which is going beyond research papers, and citation is not always by default. Perplexity on that matter is kind of a similar version of ChatGPT, but like you can choose various models. It is not necessarily have to fit to one model per se, but the main idea of these guys again works a lot with research papers. It takes citation and original source as is one of its priority, right? So it's obviously going to be less fun than ChatGPT in that sense. If you look at how do you define fun is a different point, but you get the point. Like it's more source driven, etc. So it could be a little less interesting in that sense, but it may ensure that it doesn't go beyond. So it reduces the hallucination things and etc. for you. So and then you can ask the same question to this guy and see what the response it gives.
It has put a picture also. Okay.
Yes. So it just go into, and then, so that's the major shift, because this is again, in my opinion, Perplexity is more like a ChatGPT with a lot more guardrails and focusing more towards resources and etc. So, but Undermine and Elicit are very specific research assistants, and so you can see like here, it instead of answering, it just identify the background, but it give you 4 more questions. So it'll never start a process until it's happy with the scope of the problem. For example, it says like, are you talking about subjective comfort? Are you talking about muscular fatigue or pain, like, I try to define the sit long apart in a very objective manner. So I'm going to conduct a user survey at the end of the design and try to see which is going to win, or I'm going to do a very specific, stress point of the muscles be measured. So it narrows. Undermine will narrow that. Only after narrowing your scope, it'll start really giving you answers. It'll never give an answer from the beginning. That's the way that is designed. So this is the idea here, is to show you like how different tools take at tackling research problems, right? Finding. So that is one thing, and then, like, for fun, we can also ask like ChatGPT, like, suggest a good prompt to ask Undermined tool about the following research. Make sure you adapt good prompting techniques and give the output in JSON. I'll tell you why JSON in a moment, in case people don't understand JSON. It's fine. I asked the ChatGPT to give a prompt about the same chair problem, right? Number one. Number two, I ask it like, I'm going to use it in Undermine, so just tell me what the prompt is. Third thing I wanted people to understand. So I basically asked ChatGPT to give a prompt for which tool and what task I give. That's very important, obviously. Why I ask JSON is that it becomes a lot easier for me to control after that. So it is like prompt name. The role, okay, it is asking Undermine to assume interdisciplinary expert in economic, blah, blah, blah. What is the task, the context? So once I copy this, right, I can basically modify. Suppose I'm not happy with any of this itemized thing, right? Otherwise, it will give a very big paragraph and you don't know where to go and figure out. You're lazy, you just copy paste. Here, it helps easy in modification later you wanted to do, right? That's the major benefit of getting into JSON formatted or similar kind of markdown way. So that's broadly what I wanted to show to begin with, but I'm happy to take it further based on the questions we have.
So can we just copy paste the JSON format to, maybe the students might have questions like to other tools?
Obviously, like you see this right hand side, there's a copy icon here.
Yeah,
Just click it, then it put a tick. Yeah, then you go to Undermine, and then I'll create another
project.
Yeah, basically I don't need to, but it's easier and they track it that way. Demo 3 done. I can invite other people to the same thing. I'm going to keep it for now. So I'm going to say, oh, there's a report writer, but that is later. So I'm just going to give this. I don't need to highlight and copy. I just can click the copy button there and it works. It is here. So Undermine will give you an answer like, again, so it's not happy with the scope. What do you want the search to optimize more strongly? Finding unexplored research gaps or generating novel armless concept, or general desk work. Should I keep this broad across office work, or center the search on more specific prolonged use pattern like general desk work, keyboard plus mouse knowledge work? Which is the type of work? Like, look, I just defined office chair. It wanted me to further tell it, is it general purpose work or keyboard mouse computer based chair or intensive mouse dominant work? So so that is what is good about about Undermined in narrowing the research. So and it's also saying why I'm asking, because armness needs often differ more by task pattern and etc. So that is the key benefit of this thing. If you have to figure that out, you'll have to learn a lot. Like that's suggestion is there. Why I am asking this is the interesting feature in the Undermine that tells this why it's. So if you give this answer, then it'll like you can say like finding unexplored. And I always wouldn't jump to generating this concept. Because going step by step always help. That is known as COT, the chain of thought kind of process. Because if you just jump a few steps and ask AI, okay, you do that without me involved, but you give me the final answer, it's always not good. Especially the more complex the task is, that better to break it down and go one by one.
Yeah, the same reason that you said, like it can answer specific questions more proper,
More
right?
accurately, yes. And also it helps, like, for example, whenever I wanted to prepare a slide deck, first I go and tell, like, look, it's a 30 minutes, it's a topic, blah, blah, blah. But first give me an outline. And I'm not happy with an outline. I'm saying, no, this is not the outline I want. I want to start with this and with that. So first, after fix the outline, I'll go and say, okay, now let's create the introduction slides. So I create slides with ChatGPT, but I spend a reasonable amount of time. It is not a minute work ever at all, but it's a lot faster than how much of time I would have spent in the past. There are cases where it took longer than I started to do it myself, kind of on my own kind of thing. That is either it's a relatively open problem or relatively simpler problem. I'm like, okay, instead of asking you, I'll do it myself. I'll just Google and do it myself, sort of a thing. So as you can see, Undermine will not be happy. Like it'll be like, again, like, do you want their search to say? So you had to satisfy this. Then only it'll work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That looks good. Let's now open up the forum for questions. I thought I saw a question, but the person who asked the question has disappeared or deleted the question. I can't see it anymore.
Yes, the question disappeared.
Okay, disappeared. Okay, that's what I.
They
Maybe the
can actually
answer.
type it back or like ask aloud, right?
Yeah. Questions? Anyone having questions? Feel free to ask. I hope the demo with specifically Undermine was useful. I think it helps you ask more questions. I mean, it asks you more questions so that you can.
So I have a few questions here until others type the questions. Shall I start on with those?
Yeah,
The
please.
first one is kind of funny, I think. So, I mean, we are very bothered about AI hallucinations, but humans also tend to hallucinate, right? So these famous research hallucinations. So when I call hallucinations in the research context, I mean these unexplainable or something that they get from unscientific or illogical way. So as an example, I mean, we all know from A levels that this Wheeler, the scientist, he dreamt of a snake biting its own tail, and then that's how they found the structure of the chemical called benzene. And we all know like how Ramanujan saw infinity, right? All these things are like kind of urban legends. And also, in Sri Lanka also, like somebody did some research about this chronic kidney disease with this kind of hallucinogenic way. So my take on this one is actually, okay, so humans also hallucinate, and those kind of hallucinations have helped science once in a while, though. Would AI hallucinations also be helpful once in a while?
No. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. There's a difference between hallucination and risk taking, right? Risk taking is good, and risk taking come with a little bit of a foolishness, right? Because risk is a foolish option, right? High risk. There is a potential negative outcome. For an average man, it's a foolish decision. But for a scientist, it makes sense, right? And scientists being a bit crazy or a bit offbeat, that's very common. That is why this guy, scientists have, especially childhood scientist stories are very funny. Like they do have a bit of they are an outliers, especially deep true scientists I'm talking about, and they tend to stand out. They take certain things, they try certain things that look weird, and that's how they find. But hallucination is nothing to do with risk taking, or nothing to do with like being an offbeat or something. Like hallucination is hallucination is basically AI will tell you something. It has never learned. There's no reference, no proof, nothing is there. It will just confirm something for you very confidently. That's the second part of the AI, right? So that is what is generally comes under hallucination back. So if you are somebody who doesn't know the domain, can't even make a judgment that it is actually hallucinating, it'll become a problem for you. And that is why people shifted from tools like ChatGPT to Perplexity, where to reduce hallucination, it goes to source-driven thing. And then the thinking, like the reasoning part comes in. Why I am telling you in undermined is to reduce. So why I am asking you is just not because I think they are connected. I think I'm asking you because of these reasons, kind of story. Right. So does it make sense to you?
Yeah, it does perfect sense, sir, actually. Thank you. So, Mohammed Faiz is asking, is there any specific process to identify gaps from selective research papers for systematic literature review?
All right. Systematic literature review, it means that you actually are going to conduct research about the past research on a topic. And then by consolidating all those research, you are supposed to give a contribution to the research community. That's very important. Some of the potential contribution that you could think of is, number one, you can basically list all the potential research gaps where people might want to address, right? Where you have read a lot of research papers about one topic, right? So you should be able to tell where the research has gone in the past, where it gone wrong, where it has not addressed, etc. Number one. Number two, you should be able to tell the groups or subgroups of research and compare and contrast the past research so that you can see which technique work better and etc. That is basically stitching the knowledge that should be there. So these are some of the potential outcomes. So you had to do that, number one. Number two, is there any specific process to identify gaps for selecting systematic literature? See, this is very unique kind of research. Unlike the previous case where we are trying to mostly find a new problem or try to find solutions for problem, that's engineering view, as I said. But here you're talking about, can I find a new research topic for systematic review, right? So the easy way out is that you first of all find what are systematic papers out there in the relevant topic. That is the first thing. And then from there you have to find out what is not being looked at, and then go further and find. As I said, in at least in computer engineering domain, now systematic reviews are being not entertained much, mainly because with AI tools there's a like roughly number, like a very large number of papers coming in systematic review, because it's a lot easier with the AI tools, and people discourage it. Now, selecting research papers, AI tool natively help you. There's a framework that people adapt in engineering discipline, because other discipline people are there, where like basically it starts by defining a bunch of keywords, right? And then you had to define a set of sources that you're going to search. And then it gets searched. And after that, you will say, these are the rules I applied to filter out the papers. Like, for example, you say, I filtered all the papers before this year's. I filtered all the papers that is published in conferences less than this much of H index or something like that, right? You have a set of filter rules that is acceptable. Then you filter the papers from that. And then from the selected papers, you conduct the literature review. Right, because it's very important to find the right source of papers, and most important thing is that you define a time span. You had to say that my literature review actually from January to March, because after that you will spend a month in consolidating the knowledge. By the time there may be 2 or 3 papers, so it's better to define the time frame of at which that you actually looked at this as well, because especially in our domain, papers just keep coming every week, might change the whole game. So that is about, and as I said, in this illicit tool as well as undermine type of tool, they kind of adopt this literature review framework, that is recommended.
So I think
In
there's
fact, and also we will be discussing a lot about literature review next time. So
yeah. We have. I think the next session will be on literature reviews, and I think this is a good start for that as well. So I'm getting a lot of questions, but I think Nafis has a question. Nafis, it would be nice if you can just unmute and ask your question directly from the panelists. Nafis?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Can you hear me?
We can hear you clear. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. It's your valuable time. First of all, you are doing this for the students, sake of the students. Sir, I am a student of, not from the engineering discipline, I'm from allied health sciences. And I don't have any idea yet about the research, because we have our research in our 4th year. So what I want to ask is, is there any specific tools can I use in terms of my discipline will be helpful to go through my research or facilitate my work throughout the process, sir?
Just to be clear, what is your domain?
Allied
Allied health
health
science. Yes, I'm actually a radiography student, sir.
radiology.
All right.
Yeah.
So, here is how it works. Um, Perplexity, has indexed both literatures as well as case studies. So if you are interested in, only going through case studies, you can actually um, uh, specifically tell that to look only into, case studies or whatever. In the sense, like basically, uh, all these tools index all the standard literature indexes, so it is not domain specific at all. It works across the board. There is nothing that is specific for a tool I would suggest, and etc. But definitely in radiology there is a lot of image processing tools and relevant matters that is assisting your research method and etc. There are domain specific tools that are coming, converting a radiology outcome into a 3D model, analyzing radiology outcome a lot efficiently, like vision language models are the bunch of open source tools to specialized tools are there. But for the problem formulation point of view, I think you are good with the standard tools. I don't know anything that is domain specific, that's only look at one thing and deliver. To best of my knowledge, I don't. But I personally would recommend you should be okay with Elicitost and Undermine, because they are not only for computer engineering. They can basically they are indexing all the standard indexes out there.
Yeah, including places like PubMed, which is more medical oriented.
Correct.
Repositories, they are all indexed, so you should be able to follow the same idea. In fact, like the example they took is not, so it's armchairs, not computer engineering, right? So
Correct.
So I
Okay,
think,
sir. Thank you very much.
okay, cool. You got a sufficient answer, right? So, sir, we have
Yeah.
Teshan's question back again in the chat. So, it's interesting. I think he's asking about authentic research. So, what he says is recently when he tried to find a research topic, one of his friends have told there is a type of a research where they are just using APIs of AIs as agents for a specific task. And these agents would act on a problem, work on a problem, and try to fix it. And the research actually is finding which agent fixes the problem most accurately. So his question actually is, can this be considered as a proper research? And also, if you go for go for an MPhil or something, he says they need more than one publication. And in that context, or in general context, I think his question is, uh, like his perspective is, he sees this just as a topic, like a project topic, not a research. So I think he's expecting like what is the originality, novelty of these kind of research or projects?
Yeah. So again, there are two pieces when it comes to novelty, significance, contribution. For the students, they are different three words, but I'm just backing it. There are two things you should look at for the scope of the problem. Number one is it novel, as in, are you trying to solve a new problem, or are you trying to build a solution to a new problem, especially engineering? That's tier one. The tier two should be, right, you may are improving an existing solution, right? That is like, okay, I took an architecture, for example, some deep learning, you take it, okay, I'm like, okay, I will try 5 different, generalization technique on top of this, and looks at which gives the best results. A simple project. It is not an MPhil project for sure, right? If you are comparing A versus B and L, which works better, relatively lesser novel problem than the first one, right? However, it's all matters, like finally what matters is that, I mean, I'm just simplifying this at a very high level rubric for you, but what matters for this type of question is that what challenges that you actually tackle, right? if you really have a lot of challenges in evaluating these two, are you creating new evaluation metrics? Are you finding a general framework for evaluating agents in this context? So, that's where the narrative part comes, right? You might have done it, but are you able to convey somebody, hey, I am creating a new framework for evaluating agents. I have demonstrated my framework using setting 1, setting 2, setting 3. This framework offer you 3 different new measures, new metrics, going beyond only accuracy. So if you can set such a narrative, it may become MPhil. So it's all about, what is the challenge that you are going to solve. And that is why we need, essentially need to, we normally you will have to give a proposal, and your supervisors and other evaluators look at it, whether there is a substantial problem, that the problem is meet enough, is it feasible, or they look at all these, they ask you questions and confirm whether this is right or wrong. So I hope that I gave you how things works. So obviously there's no right or wrong answer for your question. I can take a project and convert it into an MPhil, but there's a lot of work to be done. From the face of it, it is not an MPhil.
I think he also felt the same way. Sir, there are few questions that I got as direct messages, so I think I had to read them out as well. So Yehan is asking, can we use AI tools to make sure that the problem that I'm going to solve is not solved by another person? I think this is where you even started the discussion at the beginning of my research. That's, I think, a very valid question. So what is your take on that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again for me?
So he's asking, can we use AI tools to make sure that the problem that we are taking has not been solved by any other person? It's basically literature review.
Yes. So that is what is research kept finding is that, so AI tool, if you first of all, you should be able to express your problem in English language in a relatively simpler words, and you have to define the problem well enough for an AI to understand it. Then only you can vet it, right? So that is your job. If you misinterpret or you can't write your problem in a very correct way, obviously AI can't solve that for you. What AI will essentially do, if you ask this question, you can see some of these AI tools, they are like thinking and do. Now AI tool is, there's LLM, there are several layers in between. There's input come from the user. They just figure out, okay, but how do I break this down? What they will do is, first of all, go and search with multiple keywords. You can see that in ChatGPT, etc. What keyword they use, also they show you in the progression, etc. They will go and hit the search index with multiple keywords relevant to the whatever that you explained about your problem, and see is there any research paper that is having a hit at it. They will most likely, when you ask this question, they will most likely come back and tell you 3 or 4 papers relevant to your work and say, hey, look, this guy has done this work there in France, this guy has done this work 5 years back, type of things, right? That is not going to be a black and white answer ever from an AI tool for you. You still have to make the judgment. By looking at it, am I novel or not? But they will give you the closely, like if you say, for example, instead of that, if you say, this is the problem domain I'm working, can you give me the top 5 most recent papers? Then that will help you to make sure that, is it novel or not? Or rather, more formal literature review is the best way. AI will not let you skip a formal literature review. You can't skip that step. You have to do it. You have to understand all the literatures one way or the other. At what level? That's different. That's a different engagement. I think literature review people will help you. Next session will tell you how to, process 100 literature versus 5 literature versus difference. That's different. But you can't skip literature review. Problem formulation start with that.
Thank you, sir. So actually, Buddhika has posted a question. I really believe this Buddhika is not the Buddhika that works in my lab. This is a question. I'm lazy to write a thesis with my own words. Can I use AI for that? Which one may support me?
So, right.
Roshan, sir.
Yeah. See, there is no policies outright that has been said no AI tool yet by some universities, I believe. Whereas some universities have put out some policies. The way some universities have no policies yet been drafted. Some universities clearly put out a policy saying that you can use it, you cannot use it. The majority of the universities I have seen give a recommendation about AI tool use, right? That is one side of of the game, other side of the game. There are AI tools to detect AI, but do they have a legal stand? No. So that's good news for you, because if somebody tells you like, hey, I know that you are using AI, I detected it using an AI tool, that does that have a legal standing? No, primarily because there are some AI detector tools that ended up detecting even the USA declaration as an AI written thing. So it's kind of the problem is that those tools are not 100% foolproof, so nobody can make a claim out of it. However, I want you to also know there are some conferences, especially some of the good conferences, started using AI, similarity check, similar to the plagiarism tech, and they say you have to go beyond, you have to keep your AI similarity below this much. Whether you write AI tool, I don't care, this is my policy. So they have made it very clear. So you can go beyond 40% AI similarity. Then I have an experience, my students, he has written it himself, maybe paraphrased with AI certain things like grammars and etc. Not AI written at all, right? But it keeps saying AI. So he's like, he got frustrated. He just uploaded a version before paraphrasing, that also came back. So then we had to fight with the tool to come to the thing, because that is the way this ecosystem is evolving into. We created a problem, we created a solution for the problem, and we created arguments about it. So that's how it works. So finally, I would like you to also understand which AI tool and what AI tool, how I do whatever. Once you have a kid, the grandkid is going to read your thesis, right? And please remember that when you write a thesis. That's the only story I tell my students. You do whatever it is. You don't want to be, questioned by your grandkid. Hey, is it really something you wrote? Seriously? I don't see no relevance, right? So you should own it, right? Finally, you should own it. My philosophy, use AI tool for paraphrasing, grammar checking, language corrections, but you should have a narrative. In this today's conversation, instead of me, there was a different professor. We would have taken this conversation very differently, right? That's what makes each one of us unique. We have a persona, we have a value addition. If everybody, use AI, it look very similar, and most importantly, more than very similar, you will distant from your output, right? You'll distant from your output. Then you will not own it. You will not feel proud about it. You lose confidence in pitching your thesis. If somebody say, hey, I read your thesis, can we have, I kind of have this question in an interview, like thrown off, right? You don't want it. So if, that's why you should own the thesis. So okay to use AI tools for paraphrasing. There are plenty of tools. You can just ask ChatGPT to paraphrase and etc. But don't expect it to write it for you. As I said, thesis writing is a very stressful task, very important task. It helps you to, when you put your ideas together in writing format only, the gaps. It's very important task. Don't think AI will be like you can give, okay, thesis writing task is given to you. 1 week is given to give me a thesis, I'll submit next week. You can delegate it like that.
Thank you, sir. So we are getting a lot of questions. So the next question is,
sorry.
yeah.
Can I disturb you all few seconds? Is it okay?
Please do. Please go ahead.
Right. As my question is, I'm maybe a bit old generation man, but my question is, while I'm teaching my students, two things I've noticed. One is, what is the purpose of writing a journal? Is it just to publish in IEEE or Spring Nature? Or how much knowledge you have or you gain? And my students are really faster than me in writing journal. But when I ask them, okay, just what is this? And how it is connected to that one? Absolutely no idea. Just like they said, what is that? Because when I am doing my research, I went to Open University to study English. And I asked the medical college doctors, what are the psychological impacts? So it is just like literature review, just sitting with all these intellectuals and asking questions. Maybe 90% of the thing is unnecessary for my research perspective, but I gain knowledge from them. But my worry is just like, are we going to create people with lower in human intelligence They only, it's like a bonsai tree, just like they grow up for that purpose. Okay, I want to publish 5 papers in IEEE. I want to 10 papers in that journal. So actually, the knowledge they have, it is not sufficient enough for a person. Uh, actually in that field, maybe it's a question is a bit long one, but I feel that different is here. I don't, maybe the Z generation is different from mine, but I think there's a problem. And the second thing, just like you can see that now, we are moving towards more introverted. We love to type their questions and are getting the answers. We are not confident enough to just go out and talk and expose ourselves. Is it really a way of literature gaining? I don't know. Maybe it's right or wrong. This is my 2 questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those are daring questions. So thanks for asking, and I appreciate it. Right, and also, as you rightly said, we'll take the second question first. Since the COVID time, we started teaching in online. I have found this weird sound ICs problem. Right, when I teach students and I ask a question, suddenly their sound ICs get problem, and they can hear but they can't talk. I just always wanted to find out what brand it is which makes this interesting problem. And as you rightly said, I also noticed this, that there's a growing number of students who find comfortable in asking question in chat but not unmute and own the question, right? We are creating, we are not able to successfully create a large number of students who happily own their opinion, right? As an ecosystem, we need to relook at it. Yeah, definitely, we need to relook at it. How we can create a society, especially the next generation, which can ask a voice out their opinion, questions in an open manner by owning, in a live manner. But they like to chat. They are okay to post in their name. So it's not about completely ownership in that sense, right? But dynamically, they are not willing to face it, I believe, for some reason, right? So that's a very important angle separately. Has it caused by AI, or is it multi-factor issue, or is it like because of this 1+ years of online learning that we put ourselves into, lockdown for about a year? Has it because of that? I think that's an interesting study. Humanitarian people have to look into. Not an engineer like me can really answer that. But definitely, I'm also feeling that there's a concern there. Going back to your original question, yes. One of the issue of AI tool could be that over depends on it towards AI tool. So what happens is that you kind of unlearn, right? So your brain is still active, and they still make connections and still burn connections and learn, right? That's how the brain works. So if you stop using a skill, it becomes you forgot that skill as well, right? So that's definitely a potential is there, especially those who are willing to take shortcuts and who always want to take shortcuts and take forward, they will do. That is there's a human nature, and this technology has made it easy and also accelerated that sort of laziness. While some people find it easy, useful, and etc. Ultimately, it's, as you rightly said, research is like, you should own of what you have actually delivered and what you have found out, right? There is always a discovery in any research, and that's something that person should be like cherish about, right? Sadly, that pride, if you lose that pride, I believe, then you will find shortcuts and you will get away, and then subsequently you will create a shallow knowledge bodies, which has no use.
So thank you for the elaborate answer, sir. Shall we go to the next question, actually?
Yes.
So we have a lot of questions, but Hiroshika is asking, okay, so I think Ragel sir has kind of talked about this long time ago in different avenues. This is a particular question. When we are going to find a solution through a research for a problem specific to a country, say like Sri Lanka, then we should, are we supposed to think about research graph through all over the world? So I think it's more general question about exploring research gaps, not just for AI, I guess. So
these are there. So I understand people want a black and white answer for certain things. And I'm not a person who always give a black and white answer, yes or no. So there are research that obviously find useful by keeping it to Sri Lankan context. There are certain research I could think of which is actually better by going beyond Sri Lankan context. The broader the impact that you have, better it is, right? But if you look at it, uh, has your research has some impact? Can you really prove it? That is where it all boils down to. If my question is there, nobody can tell you because you are doing it for Sri Lanka, it is not useful. Nobody will tell you just because you should always do it for Sri Lanka also doesn't make sense. But obviously we do, we might sometimes because of the funding and other reasons, we might say this is the scope that we want to work. But other than that, there's no regional tie-up I could think of. But obviously, it's good to solve local problems because you really connected to it. That's just my view.
So basically, so when you actually say, okay, so we are determined to solve a local problem, but when you start the research, or at least when you publish, is it that like should we actually, anyways, scope the global avenue as well, and also write few sentences about the global setting as well?
Yeah. So local problem, but not necessarily local solutions, in the sense that your solution is scalable. People like it. If you say I have a solution, it will only work in Sri Lanka, then people will question it. People will doubt your solution.
Good point.
It's if you take a problem that is nearest to you, that you are connected, you have a lot more connection in solving that. Research is tough. It's usually, PhD, MPhil researchers take long time. You don't see the light in the end of the tunnel so soon. Unless you like the problem, you don't really like to live in a tunnel like that. It's a choose a tunnel that you have played with, you like to, then you'll be okay to stay in the tunnel without light for a while.
Thank you, sir. That's motivating. So, Aarti is asking, she's a statistical student from this Peradeniya University. So, during my undergraduate, I didn't get the chance to take AI and deep learning courses. However, during my internship, I worked with AI and LLM APIs and models and learned firsthand that these skills are critical for data science. I'm planning to do research using AI models to fill the gap in my formal coursework. Do you think this approach can effectively prepare me for higher studies or research in data science? It's a very, very valid question, I would say.
Higher studies, it doesn't matter what topic you do, where do you do, the stronger publication that you have, that is your visiting card. That, if your resume have good publication, they open it up. Then have you impressed your supervisors, get good recommendation, that matters. And how can you explain your research, that matters, right? You should own your research, because there'll be always an interview from somebody who want to take you. They will look at your converse with you and see whether can you really own the problem, then can you explain the problem, etc. That's the 3 stages I can make an impactful publication, own the publication, and as well as make sure that you have a good recommendation, because the supervisors or the people they will be able to sort of value your character and your SOP and etc. depending on the country that you do. That is a separate thing. Now, see, I don't believe knowing Java or knowing AI, deep learning. This is not how people value a person. Whether you know AI or psychology or language, can you really go deep? Do you have a professional approach? Do you have an inquisitive to learn? That kind of cannot be hidden, and it'll just pop up. That character is what is about PhDs, right? Especially higher studies, I assume you're looking for a PhD, right? So anybody, I mean, that skill is what people look at, not like where your skill being applied is a secondary connection, because that's how I look at it. So especially now, for example, AI, right? Machine learning is non-gone, right? Nobody builds machine learning model. There was a time there, people build various machine learning model and figure out what works. Then they came out to XGBoost. One machine learning model outperforms everything. They said deep learning. Deep learning started to outperform, but you need more data. Now nothing is needed. Prompt and few shot. Just go and ask an LLM, give some example data, it give you the answer. So no, everything is thrown out. But throughout the whole area, can you really understand the data? Can you question the data and interpret the results? That has not changed. That is still with you. AI has not taken that over.
So yeah, if I put myself in her shoes, this is like the scenario. So say like when I was a student, we didn't have a data science program. So the best approximation we could do is statistics. But now I'm trying to apply for a PhD, say in Georgia university also. I mean, that is advertised as like, LLMs in data science, or, some actuarial science prediction mid model or something. So I know there will be a lot of people who actually, the younger people who actually has degrees that say data science, BSc in data science on the certificate. So if I were to compete just by having a statistics degree, not a particular data science degree, if I were to compete with the others who are having data science degrees to this PhD position, along the way, is it advisable for me to take, Coursera, or I don't know, from some other, even a physical university, some courses related to data science?
No, for a job, yes. For a PhD, no, that's not enough. So they would expect somebody who will kickstart from the day one. If I am a professor in University of Georgia, USA, somewhere these countries, I have a funding, I'm hiring a PhD. I want the person who can start contributing to my research from day one. So if there's a better person, I will go for it. No two words about it. Number one. So if you really aspire to cross the border, you're talking about sort of let me put it this way. There's a lot of need for statisticians with deep statistical knowledge to understand the technology behind deep learning and improve, make it efficient. Because still, that is the million-dollar question right now. Can we, half the parameter space of this LLM, billions and billions, right? Can you come up with some sort of statistical approximation and apply it? So you have to connect the dot, right? You have to find that cross. Just going through Coursera, they'll give you an understanding. It's more like you are endeavoring into a relatively connected but different domain. So Coursera is not enough. If you make a publication, you're strong, like, okay, I understand LLM may not be deeply to this extent, but with my strong understanding in what I learned in my undergraduate, I'm connecting and I'm impacting, then that's what a supervisor would like.
Thank you, sir. So I'll try to go quick. We have, 7, 8 more questions. So Bimbara is asking, so since AI is trained on existing work, can it really help us move beyond known gaps and discover completely new ideas and beyond these already known literature?
New ideas is completely thinking out of the box. That thing I have my own twist at it, as in, like, the Apple former CEO's famous quote is that connecting dots. Right? You learn something here, you see that, and can you connect two dots? That's what his LLM is good at. We know that. So it'll find an interesting math equation there, and it'll try to apply it to the LLM. Some other statistics model apply to language. So it connects the dots based on query you can do. Can it completely create a new scientific arena not known at all? There is a question mark. People still have not been able to neither prove nor disprove, because the generative versus creative questions we already had. So existing research gaps in the all known domains, it can very well identify. But connecting dots also, you can connect two distant dots, right? If I have been asked to connect dots, I will only connect dots with my experience in statistics, my experience in language, my experience in AI. That's it, right? I will not bring psychology, for example. I have no idea. But AI might be able to bring a spin on that because it knows all the domains right now in the world. No, that is how it outperforms human. Creating new is still a question mark.
Okay, so there's this other question, Kojitan. What are the current academic standards for incorporating AI-generated content into research reports? So I'm combining two questions, actually. And are there standardized tools or established processes for verifying its use? I think you already kind of answered this question.
Yeah, verifying, we have already kind of answered the question. I have given a link that is actually very formal literature review paradigm that is nowadays people are recommending. You had to find a literature gap and etc. There is an evaluation of research ideas also we already talked about. What was the question? First question again?
So it's about what are the current academic standards for incorporating AI-generated content into research reports?
AI-generated content into research reports, what are the academic standards? As I said, it varies between university. You better read your university guidelines. Some universities completely block it. Some universities allow it with citations and etc. Some universities have no policies yet. So depending on which university, what is their stand only, you can work.
So I think, FIAS has like a similar idea or experience. So what he does is he would use AI to summarize papers and paraphrasing and everything, but he never used the words sentences as it is. But what he has experienced is whatever he, kind of do in that process is flagged as AI in Turnitin. So how
Yeah.
can he combat this issue? That is
Well, here is the deal, right? If you take a paragraph and ask it to paraphrase, right, it'll paraphrase in a default way, right? You tell it like, look, this is what I've written. I only wanted my way of doing it, right? When I do, if I am you, I'll first ask it, suggest the spelling and grammar mistake for this paragraph. That's my first prompt would be. So then I'll go and fix spelling and grammar. And I will also, another tip, I'll tell it like, look, I go for US English, not for UK English, because this is one thing. There are words that correct for this and that. So I always clearly say, look, correct it according to US English. Tell me only the spelling mistake and grammar. They'll give, I'll fix it. Then I'll go and tell, look, is there any major flow in this paragraph? It'll give me. Then I am asking like this sentence, I feel too long. Can you help me break it down? Right? I ask AI like, hey, there is a connection between these two sentences I need. I couldn't think of a better one. Can you suggest me? That is how I converse with AI. I don't delegate my work. Here I'm like, like a buddy, right? That's research buddy experience helps you. If because and even when you ask you to paraphrase, you can say like, look, I want you to paraphrase, but don't paraphrase like a Britain thing. I'm a Sri Lankan student with this stage. This is my style. So don't overdo this. You can tell AI to not to overdo. That's another way to do it. But as long as you are owning it, you should be fine. And as I said, AI tools also not completely bulletproof. They are not 100% accurate. They are known for their own issues as well, and you had to deal with it because we have created this tool. This has been given to access. They also have to block somewhere to make it more authentic. So that's where the situation is right now.
Thank you, sir. So basically, there's another scary question. Using AI, human can create agents, and now they are already writing softwares. Likewise, can we completely automate research process? I think the anonymous participant is asking whether RA's students can be replaced by AI.
I think this famous statement starts way back, several years back. Will AI replace humans? No, but human knows AI will replace human who don't know. That's what the simple answer is, right? That being said, I will give you a very interesting simple story. It'll take a minute. Way back, way before LLM, way back, right? There is this tool from Harvard where when I'm talking about like decades ago, right? When I was still a PhD student. What they did was, they trained a tool only on computer engineering research papers, and it can nicely write a research paper, right? It'll look tightly, put images, everything, and it'll nicely write a research paper. So what they did was they created a research paper out of this tool, and they submitted it to a conference. They went to that conference, presented, took photos, came back, and then they published their tool and everything, showing that, look, we created a tool that does this and etc. You can even, that tool is still available in their website, and you can try it. It is interesting. Like it'll create, only where easy way to identify this is an AI, this is a sort of an AI tool, is that it'll create a name where first name is like Henry, last name is like Krishna, like, kind of very, some Russian first name and some Indian last name kind of thing. It'll mix up. That's the only place you may be able to spot it is not really this thing, but other than that, perfect title, everything. So what I'm trying to tell is that this is not new. This has been there, but 20 years we have been moving, we have been creating things. There are, things that is really useful and strong only will survive. All of the noise will just wave out. You decide whether you want to be a noise or an impact.
So basically, there's this question from Vidusha. So what she says is, when you go from undergraduate to MSc to Master of Philosophy to PhD, the suggestion is the research quality, maybe the weight it bears differs. So I disagree, but the question is, how do we proceed with the research gap identification using AI at these hierarchical levels?
AI will not give you a PhD proposal. Like just like that. It can, PhD proposal or PhD is like a very very high level problem formulation at a and then there are a lot of moving parts. With time, things changes. So finding one specific research problem versus taking a broader problem is the major difference here, right? And quality, your maturity changes, hence your quality might changes, but major difference is scope changes, right? And also the type of projects that you took for an undergraduate and an MSc versus PhD also changes, right? How do you sort of work about this with AI? Well, with your prompting, you might be able to shape it, but again, to be honest with you, I would not like a student who would find the research interest to begin with from an AI tool. You should have an interest. You find AI tool to sort of shape your thoughts, right? So these questions, as one of these gentlemen earlier pointed out, shows that, I mean, as I earlier also pointed out, there's a tool, you find, okay, there's a shortcut. Let me get few IEEE quickly. No. I mean, even if you get it, then will your paper get cited? Will it really stand out? No, I want you to understand it's not going to happen. And now with this AI tool is available to everybody else, there's a lot of people will see IEEE papers soon. And I clearly see some of these very popular journals are now becoming lesser and lesser cited, lesser and lesser, and blacklisted also, mainly because they let everybody publish. They were Q1 and they become lesser, they will get sidelined. So, that's the key I want you to remember.
Thank you, sir. In the interest of time, I will make this question the last question. It's kind of funny and maybe insightful as well. Isn't AI also human-made system? We kind of think it as an alien, and we tend to believe everything they say.
So okay. That's funny. Yes, it is. So because it's an alien, we tend to believe, is it? So
That
we
is
believe
a
aliens?
suggestion, actually. That is a suggestion. Yeah. It's like basically, if AI says something, we believe. If a human would say the same thing, we wouldn't believe.
So, but yeah, okay. So if we know that it was generated by alien, I don't think I will even believe this much.
Well, so AI is hyped. People believe AI because it's hyped and there's branding attached to it, right? When Google says it's true, but when your wife says, probably that's where it becomes more true than Google, only place, right? So there's a lot of branding attached to it. This is commercial tools that are putting a narrative, and we buy into that. And they also do a lot of research in how they present and etc. to convince you they are believing. Number one. Number two, the language they choose. We have a certain psychology, the type of English the people talk, the word choices. When they talk very complex, as Roshan mentioned earlier, like you try to write a very difficult paper, that's not really success, right? But we see a difficult paper. Difficult to understand is a complex research. That is not true. That's not always true. So that is another reason why we tend to believe AI. The third reason, which is to me makes sense as well, why we believe AI is more true, is that AI connects too many domains than us. Human can connect. That is one of the reasons we believe AI is true. But is AI is true always? No. That's why very important to have a judgment skill. So you need to have a judgment skill.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So basically, I think it's time for us to wind up. But I mean, I would again cordially invite both of our speakers, our local host and the guest speaker, both to give your final thoughts on today's session. Sirs.
I'll let
Yeah,
yeah,
sure. I enjoy the Q&A primarily because it's very, it's not often we get this many questions for a lecture. So and thanks for the audience to stay this long, because it's a couple of hours and we keep debating about attention span, and I think that's they also made this conversation a lot more interesting and successful, and most importantly motivating. And again, thanks Kapila, you you did a good job in hosting this. It's a very important series. Thanks for putting this together. I know it's a lot of work on a weekday, late hours for an academic to step out of their regular thing and do this kind of conversation. Very important, vital. So appreciate your effort, and thanks, Prof. Roshan, for inviting me. I do really enjoyed, and looking forward for more such productive discussion. And thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you, Kapila.
So, Roshan, sir, your final thoughts for the day.
Yeah, thank you, Kapila, for putting this together and inviting and I mean, making our life easy, and Udaya for accepting when he just asked and coming and sharing your thoughts. I think it was like very productive and also to the point, and we kept it as casual as possible so that it's interesting and like not very formal, academic and whatnot, right? So that's the whole idea of doing it like this. And then I think the participants got a lot out of it. And also we are recording this and also be sharing so that there'll be a lot more, it will be useful, I believe, the area. And that's the whole idea, yeah. And next one is going to be literature review, more tools and more people. Let's meet again. And thank you for this, yeah. Kapila.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
to conclude, sir, I think when we had the very initial discussion of having this in-depth series of research-related AI tools and everything, I think what we discussed was, I think what we discussed was shouldn't be just introducing AI tools. We need that part definitely, and the live demonstrations and everything, but we needed the bigger picture and the deeper picture from authentic researchers. I think our first guest, Professor Udaya, actually fulfilled those requirements way exceeding expectation, I would say. And now I was tracking, usually when these kind of things are happening, sessions are happening, people join and they just wait for 2-3 minutes whether everything aligns with their interests and leave. I think we only left 4 people, all the other stayed. So basically, yeah, it went really, really well, I would say. And thank you very much for your deep insights, not just as a computer scientist, computer engineer, but as a researcher, I would say even a philosopher. So I would really thank Uday sir for those insights. And I would like over and over again thank Roshan sir for, helping us in past several years organizing these kind of events. And we will be looking forward for the next session within like 2 or 3 weeks about how to use AI for literature surveys. And finally, I want to thank my team, Sasanka, Nitmini, and Anjali. They actually, I think this is their second project. We have a new team for AIFS. I thank them all for helping me through all these preparations. And I think it's time to say good night to most of you, and maybe even good morning for some of you. And we had participation from all over the country and maybe some overseas participants. So thank you for being with us, and let's wait for the next exciting session. And we will end the session now. Thank you, Uday sir and Roshan sir, once again, and good night, everybody.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.